Just pulling into the stream. I got to feed the dog real quick. Tonight she's getting chicken thighs and there's some eggs in there. And so you just got to wait for a second while I let her eat. But I just figured we'd shout out Hassan Piker and remind him that you don't need a shock collar to control your dog. Your dog's not a prop for your stream, although sometimes she's cute to have there. You don't need a shock collar to control your dog, Hassan. You could just learn to train her, and that would work great. Dogs love to have jobs. They love to be taught how to do their job really well. Wait. Okay. All right. Thanks for all of y'all's patience. Gigi was hungry. And now let's get set up for this thing. If you're new, if you're just coming in, welcome to the stream. I went to overtime a little bit with Jimmy Dore just now. Great conversation. I don't regret it at all. Sorry, not sorry. But it means that I was a little late getting started, and that is all bueno. Cheers to tonight. Cheers to an apparent ceasefire and peace deal that we'll briefly talk about. And yeah, only 30 minutes late. I think we're ready to roll. I do see your super chats coming in. If you were here for the last stream that I did, I made the mistake of committing to reading every single super chat. I'm so sorry. I'm not doing that again. That was way too many super chats. We were on for like 3.5 hours or something, and most of it was just me reading super chats, not actually the normal show. So what we're going to do is we're going to try our best to make the main show an hour long tonight, and then we'll do about a half an hour of super chats to take us to 9 o'clock Eastern time. Okay? So I think what we've done is we've actually fixed the super chat tracker. My buddy updated it, so I think that I can sort it. And so unfortunately, I'm just going to have to sort it by the biggest super chats to the lowest super chats, and we'll just start at the top and go down at the end of the show. And that's how I'll organize it. And maybe I'll throw in a couple of randomly selected little super chats too, because I don't want to leave all the people that can't afford a giant super chat behind. Because I understand. I'm fresh out of the life of not being able to afford giant super chats. I understand. And to be clear, if you're struggling, please don't send super chats. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. They are greatly appreciated, and they do help support this work and keep me independent. But take care of yourself and your family first, okay? So, let me see how many of us are in here. Chilling, sick. Good to have you all here. Welcome to Free Speech Friday. Free Speech Friday. Feeling free. Let me think for a second about where we're going to start, and then I'll kind of give us a marker for the stream so that I know where to cut it later. Let me close out that and that. And that. I've got to close out all my secret Qatari handler documents before I put this on screen so that Laura Loomer can't see it. Now that it's out that Qatar controls America and everybody knows, I don't ever know what we'll do. Okay. I think we're on streaming. I'm always kind of like, what am I forgetting? What's not working? What's forgetting? What am I forgetting? I don't think we're forgetting anything. I think our audio is good. I think that our screen share is going to work this time. I think that Hassan can suck a dick. And ready to get started. So, welcome to Free Speech Friday. Today is October 10th. Friday, October 10th. And there's all sorts of stuff that is going on in the world. And I know that we're all a little tired of talking about this tiny little foreign country the size of New Jersey in the Middle East. But the news, the whole thing, everything this week is about the little tiny New Jersey in the Middle East doing a genocide. Although hopefully stopped with it, hopefully done. So tonight we're going to talk about the new peace deal, and there's some spicy stuff about technocrats taking over. There's some world banking going on in Gaza and the West Bank. Not all things are as they appear, and we'll discuss that. We also are going to look at Turning Point USA and their donors and what might have been going on behind the scenes. Who actually are the donors to Turning Point USA? And who the hell set up this complex tax structure that allows for a 501c3 nonprofit, which is forbidden from engaging in political action? Who knew how to set up Turning Point to have that side by side to a whole bunch of political action? And actually, when you look into it, there's all sorts of entities, I think it's 8 of them, if memory serves, that are all interwoven in complex ways to, shall we say, engage in fundraising and in political speech, engage in, dark money fundraising and certified fundraising, I guess, so to speak. We'll look at all that. And then we'll also take a brief look at this thread by Gen X Girl that I mentioned last time about these very key points in a timeline of Israel's war, Benjamin Netanyahu's words, not mine, Israel's war on free speech in America and on the media and the minds of Americans. So that's our show for tonight. That's what we're going to do. And without further ado, let's get started. If you're new here, thanks for being here. Don't forget to hit the like button. If you're brand new, hopefully you're going to have a good time and will like to subscribe. Hopefully you got a beverage or a snack and are buckled up because there's some shit going on. Oh, I've given away the goose because I've already got my topic highlighted here. So there's a whole bunch of reporting on this new peace deal that was struck in Gaza. And though I love being sassy, I want to be clear for a second and not just sassy. I'm stoked. I'm very stoked. Less death, less women and children and innocent civilians dying is good. I think we all are waiting to see if Israel honors the ceasefire and honors this peace deal. I think we're all a little suspicious that Benjamin Netanyahu's very far-right government has no intention of giving up their goal of the greater Israel. But for now, things are looking promising. And it's promising with a serious asterisk that I think we're all just going to have to make up our own minds about whether the trade-off is worth it. Because so often it seems like the people that actually control the world, not conspiratorial like Illuminati, but actually like the banks, it seems like so often they get their way by making it the only way. By making it every way, every possible way leads to them winning because they are every side of an issue. And once again, we're seeing the signs that they just might be every side of this issue too. So, what we know about the Gaza ceasefire agreement. I've got the BBC pulled up. I've also got, AP, Newsweek. Basically, all the reporting right now, at least from mainstream media, is pretty much all the same article. And it's all pretty light on facts, as is understandable, because there's not a lot going on yet. Oh, hey, Gigi, how'd it go? Do you have a good dinner? Good dinner? Yeah? Here, let me close the door for a second, guys. Good girl. You want to lie down? Get in your spot, Gigi, right now! She looked at me like, oh no. Okay. What we know about the Gaza ceasefire agreement. After days of negotiation, U.S. President Donald Trump announced this week that Israel and Hamas have agreed to the first phase of his peace plan for Gaza. The Israeli military says that a ceasefire in the Palestinian territory took effect at 12 o'clock local time on Friday, today. Kind of yesterday, if you live in America, though. And that it has begun to withdraw from parts of the Strip. The first phase of Trump's plan is expected to see the release of all 20 living Israeli hostages in exchange for around 250 Palestinian prisoners and 1,700 detainees from Gaza. Increased amounts of aid will also enter the Strip. Negotiations are then expected to follow over the details of the latter phases, and it's these latter phases that we're really curious about. But first, let's just highlight the numbers disparity there, that we're releasing 20 Israeli hostages, unfortunately, because that is all that are still alive in the Strip. And I do mean that that's a tragedy. It's a real shame that there's loss of life ever. Israeli citizens, Palestinians, anyone. And I want to remind us all that those Israelis were not combatants. They were just innocent people that were caught up in that and that were taken hostage, and that is a tragedy. Regardless of how they were treated, regardless of what happened, that sucks. And in the same way, almost in, well, not the same way, but in a similar way, all of these Palestinian prisoners and detainees, also tragic. And we should point out that since before October 7th, Israel has had hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of Palestinians that were just taken from their homes, often in the middle of the night, usually with no trial and no due process, and just locked away in a cell to rot. And often they're never heard from again. Often they are raped. Often, I hope I'm not demonetizing my stream by speaking candidly about that. I don't really know the rules yet. But I just want to point out that there's a shitload of Palestinians in Israeli jails, most of which were not combatants. Okay? But moving on, what is up with the latter phases? Because I think we're all a little suspicious and a little curious what the plan really is and if it's really going to hold. And there are phases to the withdrawal. The Israeli military is pulling back in stages. There is footage of tanks firing on Palestinians that are trying to go back to their homes after the ceasefire is supposed to be in effect, apparently. That's awkward. It's expected. I don't think it constitutes a failure of the plan already, but it sucks. Don't do that, Israel. Take your bloodthirst home. Go play some video games. Go crash out on Twitter. But the thing that I am most interested in, the angle that is most suspicious to me, is getting mentioned in basically every article in a very subtle and short way that would be easy to miss. I had it highlighted just a second ago, and it's right here. Gaza would be initially governed by a temporary transitional committee of Palestinian technocrats, supervised by a board of peace headed and chaired by Trump and involving former UK Prime Minister Tony Blair. We're going to ignore the Tony Blair part for now. Because what the fuck is a Palestinian technocrat? Right? What does that mean? Well, if you didn't know, okay, so that's still reporting about the ceasefire. If you didn't know, the West Bank has actually been undergoing a bit of a change for the last year. And around March, I believe it was, of last year, 2024, they brought in a new government and restructured their government down from 26 ministers to 23 ministers. And a majority of them are technocrats. The word technocrat is a little bit new in the lexicon out here. Sorry, I realize that you guys can't quite see what's going on there. I'll slide it over for you. But we know what like a Peter Thiel technocrat is, but I've never really heard of a Palestinian technocrat before this last year of changes. And I still need to do a lot more research into it because it's very complex. But if you're not aware, these are mostly people that were educated at high-level schools outside of Gaza and outside of the West Bank as well, obviously, Western universities that mostly have links to banks. Is it mentioned in that article? Is it mentioned in this article? Mahmoud Abbas appoints former World Bank economist, longtime ally, as next Palestinian Authority prime minister. Mohammed Mustafa will head... Here, let me actually spend a second to shrink this down for you so you can actually read it. Okay. Mohammed Mustafa will head technocratic government that could potentially administer Gaza after Hamas is removed from power, but some doubt he will create meaningful change. This article is from 14th of March, 2024. And they're already saying that could potentially administer Gaza after Hamas is removed from power. Almost as if this was a plan. Almost as if we're just taking our sweet time, doing a genocide, and then waiting for phase 2. Mustafa was born in the West Bank, earned a doctorate in business administration and economics from George Washington University. He has held senior positions at the World Bank and previously served as deputy prime minister and economy minister. He is currently the chairman of the Palestine Investment Fund. So, we've got the bankers moving into positions of authority in the West Bank last year, and now apparently they're going to take over Gaza this year. And suddenly Jared Kushner's talk of all the real estate deals that are going to get made start to make a whole lot of sense. We've also got a whole bunch of the Gulf states, the powerful Gulf states involved in this deal and involved in keeping the peace as it plays out. That involves Qatar. It involves Saudi Arabia. I'm sure it involves Egypt. I'm not sure if it's getting reported that way, but I'm sure Egypt has to be involved. And I bet it involves the UAE, but I'm not sure. And so we're starting to get a picture painted where money is calling the shots, which is not surprising. If anyone has been anywhere for any amount of time, you don't have to be that smart to realize that money controls everything. And that's why I started this whole thing with the slogan, follow the money, seek the truth. Because I thought I was going to be doing stock market research and learning about how the money controls everything. And quickly I learned that to understand how money controls everything, you have to understand intelligence agencies, and you have to understand organized crime, and you have to understand politics, and you have to understand all these other things that are tools that the bankers use to pull strings and to bully countries and to create the conditions for catastrophes and war and all the things that make them more money. And now that everyone has sufficiently made money on the destruction of Gaza and the genocide of Palestinians, now I guess it's time to make money on rebuilding it all. And oh boy, are they going to make an awful lot of money on rebuilding it all. I wonder if I can pull up a photo from the air. Just how bad this is. We all know. But when you look at Gaza and you look at the sheer scale of destruction, all the rubble, think about how long it takes for trucks to cart away the rubble of a single building. Think about how many truckloads one apartment complex is when it's deconstructed into rubble. And then think about the thousands and thousands and thousands of buildings that are destroyed, that need to be completely cleared away if you're going to rebuild this. All of that is going to be profit. It's not going to be done for free. It's not going to be charity. It's going to be investments. Investments that expect returns. And money is apparently flowing in. And bankers are apparently being put into positions of power. And it's really a story as old as time. Or at least as old as money, which is an invention. And it's not as old as time. So, we're not going to go a lot further on it right now because it's breaking and it's mostly uncertain and we don't really even know if the ceasefire is going to hold. I personally suspect, and I was just speculating with Jimmy Dore, that there's going to be a lot of... Basically, it's not possible if Benjamin Netanyahu stays in power. That's my current speculation. Benjamin Netanyahu needs continued warfare. The moment that the wars stop, the Israeli people will resume rioting in the streets, rioting in front of Benjamin Netanyahu's house, calling for his denouncement, removal, and trial. The trial that's been ongoing for many years. You should look up the BB Files documentary and watch it. And the moment that happens, he's probably going to jail. Israel has a history of putting politicians in jail for corruption, actually, to their credit. They've put prime ministers in jail. They've put presidents in jail. They've put senior executive officials in jail for crimes far less serious than the ones that Benjamin Netanyahu is accused of. And just the evidence that is publicly available in things like the BB Files seems like enough to convict to me, speculatively. So Benjamin Netanyahu has no interest in peace, but he has a lot of interest in war with Iran, specifically. And so part of this peace process involves American boots on the ground. I'm going to see if I can find the actual stat. Around 200 troops overseen by the U.S. military will monitor the ceasefire, according to a senior U.S. official. This force's makeup is likely to include troops from Egypt, Qatar, Turkey, and the UAE. The official said their role would be to oversee and observe the ceasefire and make sure... Here, let me slide this back over for you. And make sure there are no violations or incursions. Good luck. And so my current understanding is that there will be some U.S. troops on the ground. And there are already U.S. troops in the area. And that opens the doors wide to false flags. Hate to be the conspiracy theorist around here, but someone's got to do it. And oh boy, would I speculate, speculatively, that possibly speculatively, Benjamin Netanyahu might be allegedly involved in desiring to maybe, just maybe, do a false flag and blame it on Iran. Maybe killing some American troops. Maybe bombing some foreign diplomats. Maybe something in America. I don't know. But I don't imagine that Benjamin Netanyahu has any intention of giving up on the Greater Israel Project or any intention on facing justice. And I certainly don't imagine that people like Ben Gvir and Smotrich and his extremely far-right cabinet and coalition has any intention of going through with this. So we're going to just see what happens. We're going to keep our fingers crossed for peace. Personally, right now, at this very early stage, with very little information, I'm of the mind to support this deal. I'm of the mind to be excited about it, even though I think it's unlikely to succeed, or at least to succeed the way it's planned. And obviously, not a fan of the World Bank taking over things, not a fan of the bankers profiting off of genocide and then profiting off of rebuilding and pretending like they're the good guys. Not a fan of, I'm not a fan of the current state of Islamism, not a fan of all of the Islamic terror groups that have been propped up by Lord knows who, that have been funded and supported by probably Western intelligence agencies to a certain point. But I am a fan of ending a genocide. I'm a fan of us not supporting and funding a genocide. And I'm a fan of people not dying. So the best of two shit sandwiches is, I guess, what we're going to eat. And I would imagine that the Gazans are stoked to not be getting bombed in the streets on a daily basis, hopefully. They certainly seemed to be celebrating, and I hope that their celebrations are not in vain. I have been of the mind, I took a shitload of heat for it when Trump first came out and started talking about this concept. I came out and just said, like, look, ultimately, you need money to back this. You need the Gulf states involved. You need the powerful Arab states involved in protecting the Palestinians as they try to rebuild. You need investment. Nothing happens without money. All of this rebuilding is not going to happen without money, and that money cannot come from us. It can't come from America. We're fucking tapped out, bro. It has to come from the Gulf states. And if you know how rich people work, money needs it needs investment, and it needs return on investment, and they're going to make money off of it. And that's just the fucked up state of the world. That's the fucked up state of how the fiat system that the bankers have set up is. We're not going to talk about who the bankers are tonight, but it is what it is. And we're going to watch, and we're going to scrutinize, and we're going to hold people to account as best we can, hopefully. But that's the state of the ceasefire for now. Real quick, let's test out our super chat. Let's see how our sort feature works. Boom. Just like that. Frederico, you're a legend. El Padrino, we love you. One super chat, and we'll get back to the reporting here. $100 big super from Frederico. We appreciate you. Please interview Stu Peters. Charlie Kirk's lavalier mic exploded and blew the hole in his neck. He had Israeli security at the event. Remember September 2024, IDF used exploding cell phones, walkie-talkies, and other devices against thousands of Hezbollah members in Syria and Lebanon. True, they did. That being, and I like Stu. Disagree with him on a lot, but I like him. And I would totally talk to Stu. Actually, I think he might be near to me right now. I should reach out to him. That being said, I strongly disagree. I don't think that the lavalier mic exploded. We all know what an explosion looks like. It didn't explode. It was on his shirt after the alleged explosion. But the other version of that theory is that it fired a projectile into his neck. I also don't think that happened for many reasons that I detailed on the last stream. But I don't take issue with theories, and I don't take issue with talking about them, obviously. And so I would be happy to discuss it with him or with anyone. But I don't think that that's what happened. And we do actually have a bunch of developments that maybe we'll get into in the later half of the show when we get to the super chats. People might ask questions about that. About all the stuff that Candace just dropped this week, particularly yesterday, about all the new developments in the bullet, in the autopsy, and apparently a fragment in his neck, as well as developments in the Israeli conversation, the Josh Hammer conversation, the donors conversation, which we'll dig into a little bit tonight. So, thanks for the big super, Frederico. We'll come back to supers at the end. Now, on to the donors. Should we do the donors first? Yeah, let's do the donors first. Last week, we pulled back up the Obsidian file for the first time in a long time, and y'all were stoked, and I'm stoked. And I figured that this was a perfect investigation to build a new Obsidian file around, so we're going to do some Obsidian work right now. If you're not familiar with this app, everyone always asks me what this app is, and it is called Obsidian. And it's how I make these mind maps of sources and information that link together, and I take notes. And Obsidian is not designed for this. It's designed for text notes, but no one's got time for that shit. And I use the canvas feature if you're curious. The canvas feature is this little button over here. That you can make canvases with, that are these blank spaces that you can fill with stuff. So, I'm giving away my Zionist Mafia one. Let's go back to the Turning Point one. I'm gonna get canceled for this one. Don't look. QRS T. Turning Point. Okay. So this is just preliminary. This is just the start. But there's this whole conversation happening about the donors for Turning Point USA. About what was really going on behind the scenes. There's reporting from the Gray Zone about donors pulling their funding and about donors pressuring Charlie Kirk in the days before his assassination. And there's the reporting by Candace Owens that was a masterclass in playing the opposition like a fiddle. And oh boy, did the Israel lobby, and by that I mean not the Israel lobby, I mean all of the influencers that are not being paid by the Israel lobby, certainly. I mean all of the mouthpieces of the Zionist ethno-state. Candace gave them all the rope they needed to hang themselves. Metaphorically speaking, YouTube. And oh boy, it was so amazing to watch. And I didn't have any inside information. I did not know what she had. I purposely have not reached out to her, and I didn't know what was coming. I suspected because I know her, and I know that she does not shoot from the hip. I know that she brings receipts. I know that she does very careful vetting of her sources, something that I aspire to be better at, like her. And so I hoped and I suspected that she had something, and oh boy, did she deliver. And so we got weeks of donors and TPUSA spokesmen and friends of Charlie and Zionists galore just pontificating on how Charlie really felt and claiming Charlie's legacy and all sorts of stuff about how much he loved Israel. And then Candace dropped the text messages, obviously, where Charlie explicitly said that he had no choice but to abandon the pro-Israel stance because of the pressure and treatment he was receiving from Jewish donors. And holy shit, did the internet melt down, right? Holy moly. And so I figured maybe we should look into Turning Point USA just a little bit, ask some questions, and figure out what's really going on there. What is really going on with Turning Point USA? And, actually, now that I think about it, I want to see if I can find another article. Where did I put it? It would be in this document that I have. Give me a second to pull this document up because I actually think that we should back up a little bit and talk about the founding of Turning Point USA, because it is very informative about who really put this all together and who really was responsible for building Turning Point, and what might they feel if Turning Point were to turn on their nearest and dearest cause. So there's a lot of reporting. Well, not a lot. There's some reporting about Turning Point USA's nonprofit structure. And it's mostly coming from left-wing sources trying to criticize Turning Point. Excuse me. Because it's mostly all written before this whole thing happened, before this tragic assassination. But it's worth noting that Charlie Kirk was 18 when Turning Point was founded in 2012. Okay? And it was Bill Montgomery who invested in the young activist after hearing him speak at a small college in the state. At the 2016 Republican National Convention, Kirk met Trump Jr. and would soon accompany him on the road as an assistant. As Turning Point thrived, Kirk's salary grew, and then they get into the financials there. So Bill Montgomery, he's not Jewish and he's not a Zionist, at least not like I wouldn't say he's not a Zionist. I would have to dig a little deeper to clarify Bill Montgomery's stance. He's no longer alive. But Bill Montgomery selects Charlie Kirk at age 18. And Bill Montgomery's like 70 something at that time, I believe, and has a long career behind him. And Turning Point USA gets set up as a 501c3 nonprofit right away. Over the years, Turning Point built a very complex structure of, let's say, companies, entities that allow for Turning Point to be both a nonprofit that is not allowed to engage in political speech, as well as a political organization. Turning Point USA financial investigation. Let me pull up. This is an AI summary that I grabbed, filled with sources and a timeline. Is this the one? I might decide not to take the time to hunt down where my report on this is and instead just kind of summarize it from memory. Because that one is full. It's not that one. It's the next one. Financial, continuing previous conversation. Okay. Okay. So Turning Point is built out of like 8 to 12-ish different entities, from like Turning Point USA, I think Turning Point Action, like Turning Point Inc. There's a whole bunch of them, and they all have kind of different names, but they all are responsible for different aspects of Turning Point. And it's very normal for 501c3s to be nonprofits on the one end, and on the other end to be affiliated with a for-profit arm that is allowed to engage in political action and other things. That's not uncommon. Normally, when that happens, you would have an independent board and you'd have independent control, and there would be barriers between the employees and the communications and the finances to make sure that everything is above board. And it's very complicated. There's like entire career paths dedicated to just how to set that up and how to run it. That is not how Turning Point was set up. Turning Point was set up with a lot of those lines very blurry, with people working on both sides of that wall, without an independent board of directors, but instead the 501c3 directly controlling the for-profit entity. And that raised a lot of alarms. And that's what, sort of raised the alarm that this ProPublica article is all about. It's questionable financial structure and reporting. And we're not going to dig into all the specifics now on the live stream right now, because they are quite complicated. And I don't want to bore you with all the financials of nonprofits. But let's just say that it was a complex structure with many entities built over time that I doubt 18-year-old Charlie Kirk knew anything about, that allowed for some questionable donor to action results. And so that's got to make you wonder, who knew how to set all that up? And from the looks of it, it was probably Bill Montgomery's buddy, Stapleton. What's his full name? Stapleton. Robert Stapleton of the Stapleton Group. And we will come back to him in future streams with more detailed analysis. I just wanted to mention his name here briefly because he had already a prior relationship with Bill Montgomery, who's helping Charlie found Turning Point, doing his taxes and stuff like that, helping Bill Montgomery with his own business ventures and, legal work and stuff. And then Stapleton Group did a whole bunch of stuff for Turning Point in a role that should have been an independent group selected, but instead they selected their buddies, the Stapletons. My understanding is that Stapleton is a Jewish person, but I don't know. I'll get more into that in the future. I just bring it all up to say that someone that was not Charlie Kirk knew how to set up all these complex tax structures of nonprofits and for-profit entities. And Turning Point got built by a whole bunch of donor money into this complex legal framework that allowed it to be one of the most powerful Zionist organizations in America, in the American right. And that's a very valuable asset. That's an incredibly valuable asset, right? And if you look at the right-wing media landscape, what do you got? You've got the Daily Wire. I mean, you've got Fox News, owned by Rupert Murdoch, the Murdoch family. And they are best buds with Netanyahu. They're not Jewish, but they are very Jewish. And in this case, I mean Israeli aligned. And then you've got the Daily Wire. You've got Turning Point USA. You've got PragerU. You've got all of these overtly Zionist groups that were founded by Zionists, funded by Zionists, run by Zionists, and in some cases by literal former Mossad agents. And that pretty much makes up the right-wing media space. There's not a lot of other options, except for some independent commentators, though we have questions about some of those independent commentators. And so the Daily Wire has had a hell of a year or two and is in financial ruin, had to destroy half their company just to stay afloat. That ship is still sailing, as in there's more to come out about that. And their troubles have not ended, as far as I'm aware. And so Turning Point USA is really the foremost right-wing political organization in America in many ways, as well as the foremost Zionist organization in America, particularly in regards to the American youth vote, which is not just the future of the American conservative movement, but also is the current groundswell in the American conservative movement. Young people are more engaged than ever, and they're voting more than ever, and they're taking political action more than ever, and they are not stoked on Israel, right? And so what happens when Charlie Kirk says he has to abandon the pro-Israel cause? What happens when he's hosting Dave Smith to absolutely annihilate Josh Hammer on the debate stage at the main event of Turning Point USA? What happens when Tucker Carlson is going to headline the next one? When Candace Owens is being invited to the next one? And yes, Charlie said in the text messages that he was thinking of inviting Candace. If you go back and you watch the Dave Smith, Josh Hammer debate, which we're going to do, we're going to watch just the first part of it. I was just looking at this earlier this morning. Charlie's opening remarks are a whole new thing today, knowing what we know now. So let's see how our audio is.
A year ago today, by the grace of God and a turn of the head tilt, a bullet whizzed by Donald Trump's face and barely scraped his ear. And as we're closing out this conference.
So this debate was held on the anniversary of Butler, which is, everything is very tied together here. And it's a lot of coincidences that I genuinely think are coincidences, but holy shit, that's wild.
I think we just need to just remember how far our nation has come in the span of 1 year, of how much has changed. And thanks to the goodness and glory of God, that Donald Trump turned his head at that very moment. 1 year ago to his body, and Corey, we wrote about this topic on college campuses. No, I speak a lot. A bit of programming here is going to be a debate. As many of you guys know, I speak a lot about this on college campuses. I get so many questions about this topic on college campuses. Some of my best memories ever have been going to Israel, traveling to Israel, seeing where Jesus rose from the dead. Jesus walked on water, spoke in the Garden of Gethsemane, gave the sermon, Mount Beatitudes, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in Hebron. And some of my greatest experiences have been in the Holy Land and defending Israel. But as you know, this is a very hot topic on campus and increasingly a hot topic in conservative circles. And I thought, hey, let's lean into that disagreement. Let's lean into that debate. Let's have two people that don't agree on this topic, that are some of the best defenders of the position when it comes to Israel, when it comes to the 12-day war, when it comes to whether or not we should be supporting or sending aid to Israel. Because we as conservatives, we want to have this debate. We don't want to just all of a sudden say, oh, you're not allowed to say that. No, we want to foster an environment where we get to the truth. We want to find the best ideas and have the best ideas win. And so we are thrilled to have two men, and they know what they're talking about. I'm going to be moderating this. We're going to make sure that this remains mostly peaceful. So give it up for Josh Hammer and Dave Smith, everybody.
Kind of interesting, right? Tragic and crazy to watch. But I want to remind us of some things that Dave Smith and Tucker Carlson said in the last several weeks. Dave Smith, in reminiscing on this debate after Charlie had been killed, he noted that Dave Smith had already debated Josh Hammer at this point, and he had annihilated him. And if I remember correctly, initially it wasn't going to be Josh Hammer against Dave Smith. It was going to be someone else, and something came up, and so Josh Hammer got subbed in. But, and I think I'm remembering that right, but Dave Smith said that in his mind, it was kind of weird that Charlie invited him to his first TPUSA event to do the main stage, the final event of the night. The main event is this debate. And it's between Dave Smith and someone who he's already crushed in a debate. And so you kind of already know how it's going to go. And Charlie's a smart guy. He already knows that this debate is probably going to be damn similar to the last one. And the last one did not paint Josh Hammer in a good light. It did not paint Israel in a good light. And here we are hosting that very same debate again all over for the entire TPUSA audience. Because we need to get to the best ideas. We need the best ideas to win, right? And similarly, after Charlie Kirk was killed, Tucker Carlson came out and said, because Candace prompted him to share this, she said, I know that you had a conversation with him, Tucker. It was probably recorded. I know you were mic'd up right before you went out for your speech at TPUSA. You spoke about Epstein, and I know there was a conversation. And Tucker shared what happened off stage before he went out, where he was talking to Charlie, apparently, and he was saying, like, listen, I know Epstein is in the news right now, and I'm not going to go into all that. I'm not going to go hard on Israel. I know that you get all this shit from the donors, and I don't want to cause any trouble for you, so I'm just going to, keep it mellow and not go hard on it. And apparently, Charlie said to Tucker, go all the way. Do it. Say it all. Right? And when you put those things together with his opening remarks, with the text messages that we now have, with the whole picture, it starts to get pretty clear where Charlie was at. Okay? Josh Hammer has since made a whole fool of himself online. And I'm not going to go through all of Josh Hammer's tweets and his tweets about how literally Europeans have anti-Semitism in their DNA. He's tweeted that multiple times. I'm not going to go into all that. I don't want to dig it all up right now. But that is what Josh Hammer apparently believes, that if you are European, you have anti-Semitism and hatred in your DNA. Just by virtue of being white, you hate Jews. That's awkward, seeing as Charlie is white. Josh Hammer also said that Tucker Carlson, in his opinion, is the most dangerous anti-Semite in the world. I think he said in the history of our country, actually, which is all kinds of crazy. And you start to wonder what Josh Hammer might be willing to do in order to stop Charlie Kirk from platforming Tucker Carlson. I personally don't suspect that Josh Hammer has the balls or the power to be behind this whole thing. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I would suspect that Josh Hammer probably told some of his Israeli friends what was going on. And I wouldn't be surprised if some of those friends were linked to Israeli intelligence and linked to the IDF and stuff like that. And maybe someone there might have made a decision. But there's no evidence. There's no evidence at all. So let's not talk about it. Let's not talk about it. Let's go back to where we were. Let's get back to where we were. Let's get this train back on the rails. We're doing a hate speech. No hate speech allowed. Censorship is coming, and we all got to be good guys that toe the line. So, donors, just so you know what we're looking at here, sake of transparency, this box and this box, what you're seeing on screen here, this is all AI summaries, okay? So do not treat what's in this box as absolute fact. This does include links to sources, which is what I will show you over here. You should not trust AI to tell you the truth. You should have AI help you find sources if you're going to use it, and then read those sources for yourself, do your own research within it, make up your own mind, and use AI as a tool to help you clarify your understanding based on actual sources. But we're going to refer to these lists just for the organizational structure of which donors gave how much money. And then we're going to refer to the sources to get to know them just a little bit. Okay. So who are the top 10 TPUSA donors? As best as we can tell initially. First off, the number 1 and number 2 slots on the list are basically all anonymous donor advised funds, which is common. It's where rich people have these things set up, these organizations that are basically pass-through organizations for money. So they donate to the organization, and then the organization essentially is a black box that then donates that money to causes. And so we don't actually know who all that money is coming from, and a whole bunch of the money that TPUSA was receiving, the biggest chunk of the donations was coming through these anonymous donor-advised funds. And the Bradley Impact Fund, as best as I can understand, is just another anonymous donor-advised fund, basically, more or less, that really fits into the same category as number 2 here. So, number 3, Bernie Marcus, the Marcus Foundation, $4.6 million plus donated from 2015 to 2024, with extensive links to Israel. This is Bernie Marcus. He has passed away in 2024. He has donated to all sorts of things like the Blood Center in Israel. Between 2002 to 2012, according to Powerbase, which is, they track charitable donations and charitable organizations and such, nonprofits, etc. From 2002 to 2012, the foundation donated $3 million plus to the Friends of the Israeli Defense Forces. Marx is also the founder of the Israel Democracy Institute. His profile on the homepage describes the IDI as their focus as being Jewish causes, children, medical research, free enterprise, and the community. In the final political donation recorded publicly before his death, according to the Times of Israel, made in July, Marcus gave $1 million to the United Democracy Project, a campaign fundraising group affiliated with the pro-Israel lobby AIPAC, which Marcus has supported since its creation in 2022. The Marcus Foundation makes legacy $60 million investment in Route 1 to revamp how American Jews tackle the crisis of anti-Semitism. With this investment, the Marcus Foundation has given a total of $140 million in grants to Route 1 since its founding in 2020. In partnership with dozens of youth-serving organizations, camps, and communities, Route 1 has made it possible for tens of thousands of teens to experience meaningful, fun, and safe travel to Israel. This is according to prnewswire.com. So, let's be clear. This is a fine line. It's complicated. American Jewish people are welcome to donate to whatever they want to donate to. It's their right. They are welcome within the bounds of the law to use their money how they want to use their money. Freedom of speech, right? But it's a little hypocritical when we see over and over again, as we are about to, that these Jewish billionaires, not like the average regular Jewish people. Average regular Jewish people are a whole other thing. They're just regular people for the most part, right? And some of them are pro-Israel and some of them are anti-Israel. That's a whole different thing. Jewish billionaires, the kinds of people that become billionaires, usually not the greatest of people. Jewish billionaires over and over and over again will be Americans that dedicate their entire lives to donating money to a foreign government, to supporting a foreign government, to supporting a foreign military, to even serving in a foreign military, to supporting all this shit for Israel. But not a whole lot over here, unless it's Turning Point USA and other organizations that will actually turn America to supporting Israel. Again, for Israel, right? So, that's Bernie Marcus. Briefly, quickly. The Dunn Foundation, William Dunn. Extremely limited public information available. Foundation formerly named Dunn's Foundation for the Advancement of Right Thinking. No Israeli organizational connections found in available records, according to Claude. William Dunn is extremely secretive about his money. He's extremely secretive about his life. And as far as I can tell, as far as Claude could tell, not Jewish, not Israeli, without a whole lot of documented ties to Israel. And that's true. I mean, not every donor at TPUSA was Jewish, and not every donor was pro-Israel in that way. Ed Uehlein Family Foundation might sound Jewish. It's not. It's a German name, actually. They are very right-wing. There's all this controversial stuff about them, like saying that the 2020 election was stolen and stuff like that. But not a lot of Jewish or Israeli connections there. Stephen Feinberg, number 6, the Tracking Foundation, total 1.2 million, 2017 to 2019. Don't treat these numbers as being definitive. Don't treat them as the truth, as the full maximum. This is just at least what Claude was able to dig up, and there's probably more, but it's hard to say. But big donor, Stephen Feinberg, and the Tracking Foundation. Stephen Feinberg is a whole can of worms, okay? He comes from Drexel Burnham Lambert. If you don't know about Drexel Burnham Lambert, they are a very famous corrupt financial institution from the 80s that did a lot of fucked up shit and birthed a lot of the modern corrupt financial system that we live in today. For example, Leon Black, who founded Apollo Global Management, who's very good friends with Jeffrey Epstein, he was a scion of Drexel Burnham Lambert and Michael Milken. And many of the people, the higher level executives at Burnham Lambert, went on to found very powerful financial institutions like Steve Feinberg, who founded Cerberus Capital Management, which is a whole can of worms, from DynCorp allegedly trafficking children overseas in war zones to, do I have more stuff on it? To Tier 1 Group that apparently trained the Saudi nationals who assassinated Jamal Khashoggi, to bankrupting healthcare and hospital companies in the standard private equity playbook. All sorts of scandals. Claude made a mistake of thinking that he was on the board of JINSA, which he is not. JINSA is a whole rabbit hole, but we're not going to spend the time to do that right now. So let's talk about the Perlmutters. Do I have the Perlmutters? Yeah. Ike Perlmutter. He was actually born in Mandatory Palestine in 1945. He served in the IDF during the Six-Day War in 1967. And he has all sorts of ties to Israel, mostly through the Isaac and Laura Perlmutter Foundation, which donates to, groups like Friends of the IDF, the Bruce and Marsha Moskowitz Foundation, don't know what that is, Anti-Defamation League, we all know what that is, the Robin Hood Foundation, the Jewish Agency for Israel. This is straight off of the Laura and Isaac Perlmutter Foundation's website. The foundation donated $1 million to the Foundation to Combat Anti-Semitism. To shut you up, you bigot. They support Magen David Adom, Israel's representative to the International Red Cross, is the official national emergency medical disaster ambulance and blood bank service in Israel. In other words, it's a mission to save lives. The foundation supports United Hatzalah, is a community-based volunteer emergency medical services organization committed to providing the fastest response to medical emergencies across Israel. I guess they didn't get the memo on October 7th. And then they had this deal where they gave a whole bunch of money to cancer research, $9 million, but actually $6 million of it went to developing a state-of-the-art research facility at the Technion campus in Israel, which is like this advanced tech company organization in Israel that does all this super advanced research. So actually most of, 6 out of 9 of those $1 million was actually going to Israel as well. So Isaac Perlmutter, huge Jewish Zionist. Robert Shulman. Robert Shulman is at the forefront of the news. Sorry, I'm scrolling all over right now. Robert Shulman is at the forefront of the news because he shows up in the Gray Zone article, because Max Blumenthal reported just this last month that allegedly Shulman was the Zionist donor, the Jewish donor that pulled out his multi-million-dollar donations to TPUSA just days before Charlie was assassinated and asked them not to put his name on their building and not to display his plaque. He was done with it. Over it, allegedly. And then in digging into Shulman, apparently, according to Max Blumenthal, Robert Shulman has also been uniquely involved in funding Tommy Robinson over in the UK. Islam, 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 Islam. You know who else he funds? Laura Loomer. That's weird. You know, Laura, I don't know how much money you're getting from billionaires, but I know that I'm not getting a single dime. I'm not getting a dime from any weird groups, organizations, philanthropies, nonprofits, dark money, billionaires, any of it. Not a single dollar, Laura. But Laura is very fond of accusing everyone on the internet of being funded by Qatar, funded by Islamic groups, whatever it is, right? Well, she is receiving money from a Jewish billionaire that is very suspicious. Okay? So maybe, Laura, just maybe, when you live in a glass house with a whole bunch of mental issues, just don't throw stones. Just don't. Because out here, at least for myself, I know I am clean. I am clean of tainted donations. I'm clean of tainted money. It's you guys that support me. It's your generous donations. It's the viewership, just regular ad revenue on the platforms. That's it. I am going to be taking sponsors in the near future from family and founder-owned companies, almost exclusively. I think totally exclusively. And we'll cross that bridge in a couple weeks. But I'm not being funded by weird billionaires and Lord knows what. So I just thought I would mention that. But that's not all. Shulman is on the board of directors at Northeastern University and Friends of the Israel Defense Forces, according to Market Screener, which is, it looks like a shady website. Market Screener is a very high-level financial website that gives financial information. They're legit. And also, Wikipedia says the same thing. Shulman sits on the board of the Friends of the IDF, the Jewish Foundation for the Righteous, and the David Horowitz Freedom Center. David Horowitz, very important person in the story of TPUSA. In May of 2008, President George W. Bush appointed him to serve on the honorary delegation to accompany him to Jerusalem for the celebration of the 60th anniversary of the State of Israel. And this is more corroboration of the same. Between 2002 and 2013, his foundation donated $2.5 million to the Friends of the IDF. Okay? So that's just a smattering of the donors that built Turning Point USA. And I think we all know what they were donating to, why they were donating, right? They donate to Friends of the IDF and to, the Jewish Freedom Center and all these other organizations, right? They're building hospitals and schools and sending kids from America to Israel to do propaganda tours and all these things. That's what they're donating to. And to TPUSA. Because of what TPUSA stood for. Obviously. And so, if you've got all of these Jewish billionaires, some of whom, one of whom at least, literally killed Palestinians to found Israel, what would they be willing to do to keep Turning Point USA pro-Israel? To keep Tucker Carlson off of that stage? To keep Candace Owens off of that stage? It's just a question worth pondering. I am not alleging that they assassinated Charlie Kirk. I'm not alleging that any of the people that I just mentioned have committed a crime in regards to this. I'm just pointing out who they donate to, that there seems to be a pattern, and it's not an America First one. Right? And so, Turning Point USA is an organization built and largely controlled, at least ostensibly, by Charlie Kirk. He is the face of that organization. And without him, it's hard to say it's even an organization. And we're about to watch that story play out. But behind the scenes, all the money, all the power that built it is a whole different beast. And for the longest time, Charlie was the greatest defender of Israel, the number one Israel shill. And he was really fucking good at it. And he was very smart. And he was very sincere. And he was very religious. And then things started to change. Benjamin Netanyahu did a few things too many. October 7th looked a little suspicious. Epstein kind of obviously probably worked for Israel. And Charlie believed in Jesus. And Jesus is the truth, right? If you don't know Christians, if you don't know what Christianity is all about, it's about Jesus representing not just, but in part representing truth, the side of truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And Charlie wasn't going to shy away from the truth just because of donors. Because ultimately, he had a spine. Ultimately, Charlie Kirk proved his material. He proved his stuff. And he proved it to be far superior to everyone else apparently around him calling him a friend, like Josh Hammer, for example, who lied overtly about Charlie Kirk's position and about his words and about his stance and just about everything, apparently, all the way up until Candace released the screenshots that forced him to play defense. Charlie was not like that. And apparently, Charlie trying to engage with the truth, trying to platform the truth, trying to at least platform debates in search of the truth, was enough to get these Jewish donors very upset, to pull their funding, to threaten him, to pressure him, to make him feel very uncomfortable. And according to Candace Owens this week, allegedly, according to 3 sources apparently, that we have yet to see play out, allegedly the day before he was killed, he told people, multiple people, that he thought they were going to kill him. We don't know who they is. We don't know exactly what happened. But we have a lot of questions. And I think America is waking up. I think America is finally ready to stand up for itself. And I hope that the Trump administration, that at least some people in the Trump administration, are smart enough to see it. And I hope, I pray, that this peace deal is a piece of that process, which is going to be messy, it's going to be complicated, it's going to be very controversial, and it's going to get worse before it gets better. But it's happening. There's no way around it. I do not want to talk about Israel every fucking night. I don't want to talk about it on every stream. I don't want to talk about it at all. Like, I don't care about Israel. I care about people. I care about the loss of life. I don't want Palestinian people dying and I don't want Israeli people dying, just like I don't want people in Myanmar dying and I don't want people in China dying. I don't want people dying. I just want people to be alive. I want people to be good. I just want people to get along. I was raised by a Quaker, although not in a religious way. But those values did instill peace, right? So that's where we're going to leave it on the donors tonight. And I hate to say it, Gen X Girl, but once again, we've run out of time to talk about Gen X Girl's article. And so I'm just going to have to dedicate an entire stream this week to this incredible article by Gen X Girl that lays out the timeline of all the elements that were set up piece by piece from years ago all the way till today that have prepped us for the propaganda war that we are currently experiencing that is about to ramp up significantly. We'll dig more into the FARA documents that talk about Israel, the state of Israel, funding the targeting and spying on American Christians. We went over it a little bit last week. She has some screenshots of it in this article somewhere, I believe. And in our next stream, we will go over that FARA document and let me find where she gets to it down here. But we'll actually, oh, never mind. It's in another extension of this. But we'll actually show you where to find that FARA registration document, and we'll open it up and we'll go through it more. And we'll go through this article that Gen X Girl wrote and talk about the censorship campaign that is about to ramp up significantly. Hopefully, we talk about it before we're not allowed to talk about it, if you know what I mean. But shout out to Gen X Girl. Sorry I didn't get time for that today. And again, I don't have any affiliation with Gen X Girl. She didn't ask me to do that. I reached out to her and said, hey, I'm going to share this. It's awesome. Nice work. I love it. I want to shout you out and I want to report on this because it's important. It's very important. So that is our show for tonight. I almost kept it down to an hour. Now we're going to move into the second portion here where we're going to talk super chats. We're going to hang out. We're going to have a conversation, just free speech in it. We'll do that for about a half an hour. It's not as comfortable as I was hoping it was going to be. But how are you doing? How are you doing, chat? How are you all doing? What's on your minds? For a second, I'm going to look at normal chat on YouTube, and then we'll move to our supers. That's funny. I look up and the first chat I see is Angel saying, love so much for Free Speech Friday. If you know, you know. If you were here last time. Hey, Celtic Girl in the chat. What up? Candace. Yeah, I'm bummed that Candace is taking a week off, but I'm really happy for her to do so. She needs time with her family. She needs to relax and chill and take her time and take care of herself. And she's been through a lot. She's under a lot of pressure. She is at extreme risk. We are all praying for you, Candace. Thank you for doing you. Dariel Kez, please read my donation. I don't know if I'm going to get to your donation, but I at least saw your comment. We'll see. Okay. Sup, dude? Is Candace here? No, I doubt that Candace is here. But maybe. Who knows? I doubt Candace spends her time hanging out in live streams. She's got other stuff to do. Love the haircut. Thanks. I love it too. It feels great. It feels so good to be fresh. Now, let's pull up the supers and do some supering. My favorite thing about getting a haircut is that I have this wonderful blessing from my mother mostly of this hair that is super thick and voluminous that takes zero effort. And people always ask me what my hair routine is, which I know more than half you are dudes that don't give a shit, but it's like literally nothing. It's get out of the shower with wet hair, put a hat on and let it dry for like 30 minutes. And then it just like take it off and it just does this. It's so chill and so easy. And it's comfortable. And it doesn't get in my face when I work out. So we already talked to Frederico. Oh, you know what? Let me resort this. Date. Okay. I don't know how it works, but I just want to make sure that we get everybody Curtis with the $50 dono. Thanks for the big super chat. I love the way you display your findings. You are and have always been a natural. Stoked for you and keep diving. If you ever come to Alaska, you've got a place at my house. That would be awesome. I've never been to Alaska. I do aspire to come there someday, hopefully when the northern lights are out. Thank you, Curtis. I really appreciate it. I credit it to my parents. I credit it to my time teaching from an early age, spending time working with kids, working with how to explain ideas. And a lot of practice, a lot of just working at it and doing things, trying, just doing stuff. And I think that it really is important to highlight how you display your findings. Because I think what Curtis is referring to is not just how you explain something, but how you actually show your sources and how you show where you're getting your information from so that everyone else out there can come to their own conclusions. And it's not just, I'm an authority figure, listen to my opinions and pretend like I know everything. Because I don't know everything. I'm literally just a dude. I'm just here trying to figure it out. And over the years, as I have done all this research and shared all my findings, I'm like basically giving myself like a PhD level course over time in like deep state politics and in organized crime and in intelligence agencies and all this shit. Because like, what is an education other than research, work, presenting your findings, talking to other people, engaging with ideas, reading, learning, right? We can all educate ourselves. And a lot of that education just comes from doing the work and putting out material, doing something. Michael, let's go. Thanks for the 22 euros. Appreciate it from across the pond. Awesome. Really appreciate it. Roberta444, thanks for the $25 dono. Ronnie, $20. Hey, Ian. I just got my bachelor's in graphic design, illustration, and with product design, I want to shoot my shot and see if you need a graphic designer. I'd love to be a part of the cause. Thanks, Ronnie. I appreciate it. Great way to shoot your shot. I appreciate you contributing, donating, and trying to get attention that way. Very smart of you. Unfortunately, I do have a small team that are very good at what they do at graphic design and stuff like that. I am mostly the one that sucks at technology. And I'm not really looking to hire anyone else right now. When I do look to hire someone else, it'll probably be because they live in the same city where I'm setting up a studio and home base, because I desperately want to work with a team in person on at least a mostly daily basis, because it's kind of lonely to work alone and travel the country and do all this like kind of solo so much. So I would love to hire some more people that can work with me in person at some point, but that really depends on where those people live. So that'll be a whole other process. But Ronnie, keep your eyes out. If there's anyone else out there that wants to work with me in the future, keep your eyes out, and I'll be announcing that at some point in the next year or two. And at that point, hopefully we'll be in the same city and we can work together. I love meeting other people with big ideas. Amber, thanks for the $20 dono. I highly recommend everyone read Tragedy and Hope by Carol Quigley. It discusses this by design. I have not read that. Great suggestion. I'll look into it. The 9/11 War Room. What up? What up to the 9/11 War Room? Thanks for the $20 dono. These are the homies. Ian, what's the difference between Epstein and the dancing Israelis? They were both there to document the events. Join Gene and Sandra Sunday, 5 p.m. Eastern time to discuss 9/11 news, strategy, and activism at 911warroom.com. Richard Gage, a regular. Richard Gage is the man. If you don't know about Richard Gage, I mean, I don't know how to quantify it. Maybe this is just me being a noob and a normie, but Richard Gage is like, correct me if I don't know where Richard Gage lives, like not literally, but like on the internet, and how he got to where he's at in the world, because most of the journalists are like really active on Twitter and Instagram and shit like that to try to draw their following and try to maintain their support and pay their bills and shit. But then there's a few of them that just like, I think it's the ones that are like, that have been here for long enough that they developed a core audience and they got censored so much that they just built their own platform that like, they don't need the main social media platforms anymore. Cause I never see Richard Gage in these other places that like the main, like all the bullshit on Twitter, but he's got his own shit going in his own space at the 9/11 War Room that is crushing. And he's so smart. He's got a whole library behind him. He's so intelligent. And I learn stuff every time I watch. Huge fan. I really appreciate you being here, bro. It's humbling that you would watch me and think that I have opinions too. Cause I've just learned a lot from you. It's really cool to learn from other people in the space. Like all different sides of the aisle and opinions and experiences, and just try to take a little bit from everybody's minds and, you know, learn what you can. Cause we're all lifelong learners as long as you stay humble. So thanks for the dono, bro. And I'll come and check it out. I think I am free on Sunday, so I'll come watch. Team Alaska. Thanks for the $20 dono. Thank you for your work and helping others do the same. Appreciate you. Garrett Weiss, $20 dono. No comment. Thank you. Appreciate you. Clips, $20 dono. Have you seen the video of the shooter in the white t-shirt right behind Charlie's head in the front row of the crowd? You need the POV from the left. You don't see the guy's face, but his moves and sound match up. Look into it, man. Yeah, I've seen a lot of theories about who in the crowd might have taken the shot, and I don't know what to make of it all yet. And real quick, clips, let's take a second to go full screen here and just talk about the new evidence in the shooting. This week, Candace Owens came out and provided a whole bunch of new evidence, allegedly, about who shot Charlie Kirk and what actually happened with the ballistics, the actual bullet that killed Charlie Kirk. This is not all confirmed yet. Candace has confirmed it herself, and I trust her sourcing very much. But I'm sure it will also play out more in the public square over the next several weeks, and we'll get more information to back it up more for other people that are skeptical still. But Candace alleged on her show yesterday that she has confirmed with multiple sources now that a fragment of the bullet was found inside of Charlie Kirk near to his shoulder blade at the base of his neck on the opposite side of the wound that we saw in the video. She presents a number of things in that piece that are not, half of it is, some of it is stuff that is like evidence that she has seen allegedly, and some of it is extrapolations of what that means. And she doesn't really clarify which is which, but if I'm hearing her correctly, I actually suspect that there's more options on the table than she thinks. And I want to push back on her assertion a little bit, unless I'm misunderstanding her. And I'd be curious to see what she thinks of this, and I'll try to talk to her this week about it. And I'm also very curious to see what the ballistics experts say about this. Candace told us that there's a bullet fragment that the autopsy or the medical examiner report will show was found inside of Charlie Kirk's body, that no bullet was recovered, but a fragment was recovered back here, base of the neck kind of. And we have this wound on the front. So that's like a diagonal in this way and into the back, but it doesn't exit the back. It hits his spine, fragments, and mysteriously, Candace believes, I think, that the body must have been tampered with before it got to the medical examiner, and the bullet must have been removed. I think there's another option here, though that is possible, and that is 100% maybe what happened, and we should examine that area in the crowd for a shot from closer and see if it was a shot from the front. It's possible. One of the main things that made people, experts, by my understanding, think it wasn't a shot from the front is A, that the wound was large and didn't look like an entry wound, because usually entry wounds are small and they're not bleeding and you don't see them right away. They're way harder to notice. Exit wounds usually bleed a lot, or they, and they're usually much more visible and they're a little larger. And so it looked more like an exit wound. But also, normally an exit wound would spurt blood, especially if an artery was severed. It could be an entry wound because of the artery. I am no ballistics expert. But Candace, I think, is under the impression that it has to be an entry wound because she's seen the video from behind and she's seen evidence of, or the original of, this autopsy. And she didn't see an entry. She didn't see any wounds or any blood on the back. And apparently in the report, there's a bullet fragment that was found. And so to her, that's coming together to mean that. But we also have several TPUSA aligned people that are saying, like Stephen Gardner, for example, that are saying that they have seen stuff about the autopsy, and they're claiming that there was damage to his spine all the way from C2 down to C7. And there's some big problems with that. Let me pull this up. Gardner autopsy. So I just want to give you a visual on this, on who he is and who we're talking about here. This is who I'm talking about, and this is the video I'm talking about. And in this video, he probably, oh, actually, you know what? I've got it on this document here. So he also did a video with Paramount Tactical, and I got to do an update on the Paramount Tactical piece too here in a second before we get back to the supers. I have to retract some stuff that I said that I got at least partially wrong. So the claim is that according to the autopsy that Stephen Gardner saw, there was like C1 all the way down to, or C2 rather, all the way down to C6-ish were like totally obliterated or at least damaged, which is impossible because C2 is way up here behind the jaw. And so a shot from the front coming at a downward angle, in order for it to mess up the vertebrae near the top of your spine, it would have to go through your face, which we all know didn't happen. And so how is all that damage to the spine being done? At first, I thought Stephen Gardner's a shill. He's aligned with TPUSA and the Israel side of things. I don't trust him. I don't really know him at all. So this must be lies. This must be spinning the narrative. That was my first assumption. But if what Candace is saying actually was evidence that Charlie Kirk was shot from behind, she might not see an entry wound. Entry wounds are often not visible at all, at least at first. It's very possible that Candace saw that footage and that a bullet entered the back of his neck, and there would be no visual evidence of that. And then it could hit his spine on the back and totally obliterate C2 down to C6, fragment, leave a fragment in his, shoulder right there where she says it is, and exit out the front down into the crowd, the grass, whatever. That would explain what the wound looked like, the blood we saw from the wound, the damage to the spine that is being alleged, everything that Candace has seen and alleged, including the fragment, and it would explain why they had to dig up the entire fucking courtyard and renovate the whole thing immediately, which is blatantly not allowed. Like, you've got to keep that crime scene pristine so that A, the investigators can continue to investigate, but B, usually I was just speaking to a Boston cop that has years and years and years on the force, done tons and tons of homicide cases, and he said, I didn't actually know this, he said that often in a homicide, they'll take the jury to the crime scene to actually walk them through the crime scene. I didn't know that. They're not going to be able to do that with this one. So I just wanted to clarify that my layman's understanding, based on all the evidence that we're seeing, putting everything together, is I believe Candace Owens, and I know that she is good at sourcing what she got. So I think she's telling us the truth about her evidence. But I think, unless I'm hearing her wrong, and I would love clarification on this, it's possible that her speculation is because of a lack of ballistic understanding. It's possible that she is overly confident about the front shot, I think. So I'd be very curious for ballistics experts. I'd be very curious for Valhalla VFT or Paramount Tactical or Zeb Boykin or any of these other ballistics guys to analyze what I just said. And I'd be very curious to talk to Candace about it. Because I think that we still have a shot from the front near, from probably a smaller caliber, or a shot from the back closer, probably a smaller caliber. I think both of those are still on the table, probably, but I'm not sure. But really quick, I saw Paramount Tactical's face, and it reminded me that I want to quickly mention a video that he made and retract some stuff that I said about this blood on the hands stuff with the bodyguards. I'm not going to show any of this video. I'm pretty sure that he got demonetized for it. They actually took it down. He had to edit out part of it because Gary from Paramount Tactical trains people to treat gunshots. And I have been trained to treat gunshots too, though I am nowhere near as experienced as these guys, and I've never treated a gunshot. But I know the technique, and it's like, it takes skill, but it's not wildly complicated to understand. It's packing the wound with gauze in a very specific way to apply extremely intense direct pressure right away. But he shows you how it's done. And he shows you with the actual training dummy that they use to train people, with fake blood being squirted out of it with a pump. And he goes through it with the bandages and does it himself. And he shows you how much blood he gets on his hands and how much gets on the ground and how much gets on his clothes. And then he replays the video. And it's not that he's not claiming that it is impossible. Like he's not saying that for sure they did treat him and there's nothing suspicious about the video of the bodyguards and the blood on their hands. But he does cast a reasonable amount of doubt on the certainty that for sure they didn't treat him. And so watching his video was really informative, and I would recommend that you watch it too to come up to your own conclusions. And I just want to walk back the statement that for sure they didn't treat him, and just say that there is one hand that we never saw in any of the videos. and maybe they were treating him. It's hard to say. And let's not accuse people of like egregious crimes against the person they're supposed to be protecting without really clear evidence. Personally, I am still very, very suspicious of them. And I still think that we would probably see blood on both hands, which Gary certainly had blood on both of his hands after his demonstration. And we know at least one of that guy's hands was clean and the other hands were all clean. But just wanted to mention it. Gary's, as far as I can tell, he seems awesome. Seems like a true patriot. He seems totally unafraid to go where the evidence leads. And I really appreciate that. So shout out to Gary from Paramount Tactical. Recommend you go watch that. Let's get back to the supers with clips. Technically, it is 9 o'clock, but we're going to go a little over because I love you guys. How you doing, Gigi? You doing okay? Oh, she's just sleeping. Being a cutie. Mary Kate Delvey. Hey, Ian. Love your show and your mustache. A mutual friend said you're currently in my home state of Florida. Are you single? Guys, I'm going to have to stop reading supers that ask me about relationships and if I'm single and such. I am. And I am in Florida, and I'm not looking for bullshit hookups and shit. I'm looking for a wife, and you're probably not it. Sorry. And when God wants my wife to walk into my life, she will, and I'm going to know it when it happens. And if you're not her, then we can be friends. But on the way to that, I would love to make friends. I'd love to meet people. You know, I like to have friends. So definitely, if you're a homie that I know in Florida, reach out. I'm here for at least another couple days, probably several weeks, maybe a couple months. And I want to hang out with the homies. Allie A, would you ever do a deep dive of Sean Lucas's death? I knew him personally, and he was not suicidal at all. His girlfriend said it was sketchy when she called in finding his body. All these feds came, and she saw blood on bath mat in DC. You know, actually, I don't know who Sean Lucas is, and maybe that's embarrassing. Maybe I'm just forgetting something. I don't know who that is. So what I'll do is I'll just type in a Google search over here real quick. Sean Lucas death DC, and I'll save that for later. My Kiwia. Hey, by the way, thanks for these $20 supers, guys. My Kiwia. I messaged you twice last week about my AI research. I have proof of ChatGPT censoring info for Israel. Very recent updates have changed the way it accumulates data as well. It no longer lets me use the math I was using. Sorry, I miss most messages. I miss most emails. I don't have a team helping me with it. And it just is what it is. And I very intentionally avoid letting people's theories and ideas derail my focus from what I'm working on, because that used to be a huge problem for me. And I was just scatterbrained all over the place. And ultimately, I'm just one guy, and it takes a lot of time to prepare slides and to prepare research and to double check things and to set up film and all this stuff. And so I don't have time to like go down everyone else's paths. And so my best advice is for you to start making videos yourself. Because ultimately we live in an era where everyone can contribute, and you don't need to be the viral person. You don't need to be the number one. That's not what it has to be about. If you were to produce a video, Kiwia, about that, then it would be evidence that's on the public square that you could send me the video instead of sending me links, which are already a little sketchy, that I have to double check the links before I click them and all that stuff. So I usually don't even click them anyways. And so Kiwia, if you had put a video out, then that would be in the public square that we could all interface with it, and then like value would rise to the top. So I want to encourage everyone to consider making contributions to the intellectual space online, because we're all in this together. And if you need any proof of that, just watch Candace's reporting over the last 4 weeks about this exact case, and watch the Decentralized Intelligence Network of the People work. It's incredible. Steve from Canada, thanks for the dono. Even if it's in Canadian dollars, love you, bro. Watch your Sunday night. You're half Canadian? Yeah, I am. Bro, how did I not know that already? Quick favor. After you're finished exposing all the fraud and corruption down there, can you come fix Canada too, please? Respect. First off, y'all got to get rid of your World Bank shill that you guys just got into office. Oh boy, Canada is definitely Mark Carney. Whew, sketchy dude. Canada's got some problems. And I am half Canadian. My mom is Canadian. She never got an American citizenship. And I've never lived in Canada. I used to visit there. Haven't been in a long time. But I did used to live right across the border from Vancouver, Canada, and I would go there often. Pie Man, $25 New Zealand. Please read my emails after this live if you have not already. I've spent all my beer money trying to connect with you, and then you can tell me to F off, and I won't bother you no more. I did actually go and star them after the last one at some point this last week, I remember, because you were telling me to go and check them out. And I think I remember what the substance of them was, and busy week, but I think if I'm remembering correctly what they were, I know what you were asking about, and I think that is possible, and we'll figure that out. Rachel D, how many ladies did you have in your inbox after our last live? I mean, actually, like not too, like not, it wasn't like completely insane, thankfully. I don't really know. I don't look at most of my inboxes. There's a few that I check. I don't know. I don't know what to say about it. Like, to be like, honestly, like, to be fair, this might be a controversial take, but like, actually for people in my position, like, it's way easier to find like-minded people through the internet. Like, it's way easier to find people that I'll be friends with if they have an Instagram account that's full of stuff similar to what I do. Like, it's way easier to find a friend that's already reporting on this kind of stuff if it's like, oh, look, their Instagram account is full of all this kind of shit. What a homie. And then you can be friends. And so actually, like, reaching out to people like that online, like sliding into the DMs is actually a very effective way to make friends, not just romantic partners, but like, but just in general. And so I'm not opposed to friends and homies and girls sliding into DMs and stuff. Like, you know, you're probably not my wife, and I don't want to talk about it the entire fucking time we're on Super Chats, but it is cool. I've made a lot of friends through the internet, and I'm sure I'll make more. And I wish we still lived in the fucking hunter-gatherer days where we were just like running around with clubs and stuff. I'm way better suited to that. But since we live in 2025, you know, that's what we got. Janelle D, off topic, digital ID. What are your thoughts on that? Fuck it. I really enjoy how organized your videos are. Your side shot. You do seem like you are whispering to the audience and spilling the tea. Am I whispering now? Do you guys know who funds BlackRock? Because BlackRock is owned by the... Did you catch that? That was just for you, Janelle. I just spilled all the tea. And digital ID can suck it. Well, here's some nuance, and let's give the people that call me a controlled opposition some ammo. We have a serious bot problem on the internet. We have a serious AI video problem well on its way. And the nature of truth is rapidly eroding. And on Twitter, I would guess that more than 50% of the conversation is bots. And ultimately, the only solution to that is some form of digital ID. Not the digital ID that the bankers are talking about, but like an online digital ID. And that is extremely sketchy because we need the capability to be anonymous online. But it's not going to happen this way. But I think in an ideal world, we would wind up at some place where there's two internets. And one is a space that is like certified spaces, like when you walk into a bank and you know that you're on camera, or you go into a members club and you have to be a member that shows your ID. You have to be signed in, or you go through the metal detector to get into the political places, like where there's a certain like entry point, and beyond there, we're all vetted and we all know that we're humans. And in those places, you can have human conversations with known humans. I think we're going to have to get there with parts of the internet, but it is so important that we maintain anonymous online spaces and the ability to have a completely free, unregulated internet that is completely out of the control of the technocrats, because they want it all. They want to lock it down. They want to control what you say. And there's just no world where we can ever give them control over the internet, and digital ID is the way they do that. And part of how they get that done is by creating this problem to give us the solution. And the problem is the bots. The problem is the AI video. The problem is the dissolution of truth. And the only solution is their solution. So what are you going to do about it? And we have to fight that at all costs. I am down with certain places being certified with like blue checkmark style programs that certify that you're a human. And I think that we need to have more, I wish that there would be more development on that in places like X, not to force everyone to be like doxed, but at least to force us to all collectively know that they've been vetted and we know they're human at least. Although that still gets a little sketchy because then we're trusting whoever's verifying to not hunt us down and sell our info and stuff like that. I'm going to read 3 more from where we're at. And then I'm going to rapid scroll down and read 3 more random ones. And then that's going to be it for tonight. Okay. That's Steve. That's Pie Man. That's Rachel. Margie, thanks for the $10 dono. I appreciate your deep dives. Thanks for sharing the truths with us. Love you, man. Appreciate you. Love you too. Thank you. Janelle D. Oh, we already talked about that. Okay. 3 more from here. Tribulation Saints. Thanks for the $10 dono. Thanks for bringing the attention to this issue, brother. I just made a video on the spying program on Wednesday myself and detailing what people need to do to fight back. God bless you, brother. Thanks, Tribulation Saints. Shout out for you for making content. Tribulation Saints, if you want to drop your handle into where can people find you and that video, what's your handle on what platform, drop into the chat right now and I'll shout you out because I want to support small creators, adding value, contributing to the conversation. If you're in there, Tribulation Saints, tell us where to find you and what your handle is, and I'm going to look for a second and see if I can't notice and shout you out. Because more people should be making stuff. More people should be contributing their research to the game. Props for that, bro. XXLXXXX. Thanks for the $10 dono. I'll probably watch this later, but I love your work. Mad respect and kudos. Thank you. I appreciate you, homie. Kitty Snow. Oh, I bet what it is that we're on a time delay. So I bet you haven't heard me on my screen yet, and I'm sitting here waiting for you to hear me in order to put that in. So I'll peep it. Vernon V. Love what you're doing. Wait, I'm just scanning. Cool. Love what you're doing. Please look at Charlie and his family. Ghosts. We use pro-grade background check services and they're gone. CK, mom, dad, sister, all profiles erased. Why? I have receipts. Do you have receipts on the fact that both of his parents are deceased? Because that was a little embarrassing how much that blew up. And I hadn't looked into his family yet either. And I kind of got caught up in it and didn't do the research for myself and made the mistake of saying a few times of like, that's suspicious. But they're not here anymore because they have passed. Tragically. His sister is still around, but it's very understandable that they want privacy. Listen, I have a family and I don't talk about them. I don't want you to know where my family live or who they are. Like, there's small children. I don't want anyone risk to befall my family members, my siblings, my nieces and nephews and such. Like, I don't want you guys to know that, obviously. Like, people in these public positions, they walk a fine line because we have to be transparent with you guys about who we are. And I want to be as transparent as possible. But there is extreme risk. Like, there was an entire doxing campaign that targeted all of us last year that tried to dox a whole bunch of people. And there were doxing attacks at me. There were doxing attacks at my friends. There were doxing attacks at former addresses that are like on file for me. It's dangerous. And so Charlie's family members have every right to want privacy. And like to a certain degree, you have a right to look into them and we have a right to question them. But there's a very fine line between what is legitimately asking questions and what is like unacceptable doxing. Okay. So for that reason, I'm going to skip that super and I'm going to scroll. 1. Thanks for the $5 dono. Candace said it was from the crowd, not the mic. There were 2 shots. There is a bit of evidence that there may have been 2 shots. I do not put stock in the 2 goth girls from that video, although it's super astute of her to notice that those goth girls said that it sounded like 2 shots. But let's be honest. Take a look at those chicks and tell me that you trust their understanding of the sonic signature of a gunshot. Nope. I don't think those girls shoot guns, and I don't trust that they know that there's a crack and a boom. Right? I don't think they know that bullets can sound that way, and maybe there were 2 shots. I think it's very possible. I think it's likely that a long rifle was fired, probably in some sort of conjunction with whatever actually hit Charlie. But I don't trust those goth girls at all as testimony. though it is interesting. Marco Cruz. He's taking a shit and we'll be right back. I assume you're talking about me when I was feeding Gigi? Although that would be pretty funny. If I just go in there and destroy it. See if I can get loud enough that y'all can hear it. Randomly. Let's get to one of the smaller ones. Kelly, thanks for the dono. Where do I send resume for director of you and Gigi? Instagram. Randy Rust. Did you get more Hispanic? I did. I got my haircut by the Latino homies. And yo soy mucho hispánico. That's not how you say it. Pero yo hablo español. I worked in Guatemala for many years, taught in Spanish. We're not going to be a gringo and fucking pretend like we speak Spanish on here, but I did get more Hispanic from the fade. Super fade, dog. And he gave me all the ultra fucking beard treatment. I have never had like it was kind of gay, honestly. I've never had my face so pampered in my life. Like, it was awesome. Just cleanest shave I've ever had. It took like 45 minutes just to shave my beard. The turtle, keep up getting the truth out there. Appreciate you. I know your firm stance on proof, by the way, Jimmy G. I don't know what that means. The OT God demands and favors child sacrifice. Ew, yeah, and it's dark. Whatever's going on with that God, not good. Old Wizard, my church is being geofenced. What do I do? Tell them about it. Talk about it. Tell your friends at your church about it. Bring it up and bring the evidence. Bring the FARA filing itself and say, I am concerned about this. I don't like this. This makes me uncomfortable attending church. Everyone that goes to all of those churches on that list should print out that FARA filing, take it into church, and talk to your pastors, talk to your congregants, talk to your friends about it. Share it, and don't make it into an anti-Israel thing. Don't make it into that. Just make it into like regardless of the politics, I'm just not comfortable being tracked by a foreign government and whoever else might be tracking us when we come to church. And I don't want to have to change churches just to avoid being tracked. Is there anything you can do? Can you speak up about it? Can you please say something? Send a letter, get loud. Your voice has power. Use it. So I didn't see if bro dropped his handle into the chat. But hopefully you guys did. Building 7 is in the chat, spitting some straight tea and fire. Real quick, just checking in with the reggae chat. Guys, what if we fund another party? It would be hard, but maybe. Charlie's parents are alive. I said they're dead. Let's just double check it. Oh, you're right. My mistake. I'm wrong. Let me double check some more. You're right. And there is some interesting stuff about his dad's involvement with Trump Tower. There's also a lot of people digging into Erica Kirk, which I'm not really hyped on. I've done it a bit in the background, but I don't want to accuse a widow of anything without completely solid proof. And there are articles about Charlie's parents that you can look up. You're right. They are alive. That's my mistake. I think I must have been confusing. Who else would I have been thinking about that I was just researching? I don't know. Thanks, chat. Thanks for keeping me honest here. You sold your meth at the top. I don't know what that comment is about, but it makes me want to tell a funny story. Actually, maybe I shouldn't tell a funny story about it. It's about methylene blue being labeled as meth on the shipping, but I'm not going to tell that story. Angel's got some theories. Charlie's parents sold him to Trump. Maybe Angel. I like how Angel's always typing in full all caps. It's like totally on brand. Way to go, Angel. Cool. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for tuning in. We're not going to go on for fucking 5 hours tonight. That is what it is. It's all it is. I really appreciate you all being here. It's been a long day for me, I was doing other stuff for the last couple of days, so I haven't been able to do as much research this week. It's just on with Jimmy Dore. I highly recommend you go and check out the Jimmy Dore show that I was just on. Jimmy laid out all the evidence, a lot of stuff that we were talking about here would actually be a great companion episode. You could go watch Jimmy Dore as well. In conclusion, we are going to be live streaming more this coming week and hopefully putting out a real video as well that builds on all of this. But I'm about to be shifting a lot of focus in my reporting because I'm about to be coming out with the Buyer app. The Buyer app has been in the works for months and months and months now. It's really been in the works since my very first month on TikTok when I started going into the grocery stores and going into the aisles and looking at who owns all the products on the aisles and realizing that it's the same people that own everything. That it's like just a couple of companies that are all owned by BlackRock and the banks, and they just they own all these brands, and 95% of the aisle is actually just giant megacorp. This one big blob of banker money that owns everything that sells you all this poison and trash. And the family and founder-owned businesses are actually quite hard to find, and they're scattered all throughout. And I just wanted a way. I was doing all this research, every single product, one at a time, looking everything up and making spreadsheets that I published online so that people could use those spreadsheets to find family and founder-owned businesses. And it took a lot of work. It was a lot of effort. And I only got through maybe 20 different kinds of aisles, different types of products. And I only got 20 to 40 different companies on each of those sheets. It was extensive and it was very useful. And I'm so humbled that people use those sheets. They downloaded them. People still go use those sheets. And I think they're still up on cancelthisclothingcompany.com probably. Clothingcompany.com. Let's see if it's still up. I don't think I've taken it down. Yeah, my old website. Oh boy, check this out. This is my old website that I designed very professionally. And in the resources tab, they still are there. The founder and family owned brands master sheets. And this is where it all started, folks. Is going to the grocery store aisles and going through and finding all the family and founder owned brands I could. And this is the master sheet of all the family and founder owned ones. But there's also the sheets of the aisles themselves organized by tabs down here where I show you all the products that are actually owned by mega corporations that you might not have known were, like if we go to deodorant, for example, it's pretty obvious that Dove and Axe and Speed Stick will all be owned by megacorps. But then Tom's of Maine. Tom's of Maine was bought up by Colgate-Palmolive ages ago. Hello. Hello, they're bought by Colgate-Palmolive, and they try to make them look like they're still these all natural family founder-owned businesses, and they are not. And so that research led a couple of homies last year to think, hey, that should be an app, and we build apps. We should build one, and we should reach out to Ian and tell him about it. And they reached out, and they got a hold of me, and we built the app, and it's about to come out, and it's coming out in I think probably 2 or 3 weeks. I don't want to put pressure on my boy. He is working overtime at getting it ready, and he's a total perfectionist, total wizard, and it's just the three of us with no outside investment, no other strings attached, so that we control it completely, and it'll never be taken from us. But it's coming out, and it's ready soon. A bunch of people are already in beta. We have 50,000 beta people signed up, beta testers signed up. They're not all beta testing it, but we selected from that group to have some beta testers. We've iterated on it. It is awesome. I've got it in my phone right now. I've been using it for months. And so I'm going to be shifting a lot of attention to Buyer and to what we can do in the grocery store to take money away from megacorp, which ultimately does connect to all these big things. All that money trickles up into the bankers' pockets, and the bankers are pulling all the strings. And so there's no more effective way to fight back, simple, easy, every day, than to just boycott them. Just don't buy from megacorp. Buy family and founder-owned products. That's how we can easily make a significant dent on their power base. And I cannot wait to give you this app. There's going to be a free version that'll give you all the essential features. There will also be a paid version that will not be super expensive, but there's a bunch of extra AI beef that we've built into it that'll help power it up. And we do have to pay for the AI behind the scenes. And so that is going to be coming out in order to make grocery shopping demystified. So you know what's really going on, who really owns everything, where your money's really going, as well as all the things that all the other apps do, like tell you what ingredients are in it and help you filter by ingredients and what like isn't. We're not going to tell you what is and isn't healthy for you, but we're going to let you decide what to filter and what's in them, and you can figure out your own preferences of what you do and don't want to be consuming. It's got everything from food to toothpaste to deodorant to shampoo, all of it. It's even got tampons. And so I'm going to be making a video about tampons and women's reproductive health here soon enough, because that's actually where it all started. And it's a really important and fascinating topic. So more to come on that soon. If you want to know more about Bayer, you can go to buyerapp.com, shameless plug, and you can learn all about how to shop smarter with Bayer. And you can sign up for the beta, which is, you're already late for that, but it'll get you on the email list. You'll be the first to know when it goes live. Sign up for beta right there, top corner, that you can barely see on screen here. Bayer is the shit, and I love these two guys that I'm working with on it. They're awesome, total legends, total homies. So that's what we're going to be shifting a lot of our attention to in the coming months. Don't worry, I will still be reporting on everything else, but I'm also going to be shifting to that. And that's our other announcement, is that I am going to be starting to work with sponsors in the way that like Candace and Tucker and all the big wigs do, where they read ad reads on the show to promote companies that support the show and pay you a fair bit of money. Like they pay you a lot of money for those ad reads. And that is how people in our position are able to like save up to buy a house for their family and stuff like that. Because ultimately, I do want to support a family, and I do want to take great care of my wife and my kids in the future, and I'm going to do that. And so for me, the line is that when I started working with the person that's helped me to organize it all, my line was, I get veto power over anything. If I don't want to do it, I can stop it at any time and never shill it again, never talk about it. That's me. I have ultimate final say, period. Secondly, I want to work with family and founder-owned businesses. I don't want to work with all the big corporations and all the bullshit. Don't want to work with L'Oreal. Don't want to work with any of that. That reminded me of a funny video I got to make. And then thirdly, I want to love the product. So I get to decide who I'm going to work with. And there's a ton of great companies out there that are family and founder-owned companies that I want to support, actually, that I love using my platform to support and help family and founder-owned businesses, because they are fighting an uphill battle against all these bigwigs. And so actually, like, I often will shill products for free, because a lot of these companies actually can't afford to advertise. So like, for example, Fairy Tales Hair Care is an awesome shampoo company that's designed for kids, owned by Risa Barash, that is owned by this mom that founded it herself, that is for kids, sell like safe, non-toxic shampoos and hair products. And she approached me early on in the TikTok days, and I was telling her what my price was, and she said, I can't exactly afford that. Could you work for me? It's like, hell yeah, I can. We'll do this ad for less, because I just want to support you. You're awesome. Your company's awesome. Thanks for supporting me. And that really built the ethos over time. And I've actually done more ads for brands, for family and founder-owned brands, that were not paid, that had nothing to do with advertising, that was just me promoting them for the fun of it, than I've actually done paid ads in my time. Because it's important. Businesses build the world. Businesses build the economy. They build our country. They build our culture. Individuals are the heart of it all, but we are only as powerful as the businesses that we build. And it's the businesses that really shape society. And so supporting good businesses is really important. It's phenomenally important. And I'm going to do what I can to do that. And I'm not like trying to pretend like I'm some holier than thou person that like that's just how I want to run it. And I am going to make money off of advertising, but I just want you guys to know that's my ethos. That's how it's going to be. And I'll probably start doing that in like 2 or 3 weeks. And I'll do my best to vet those sponsors and to believe in them and to speak about them honestly and in my own words as much as possible, though sometimes they're really picky about the wording, so I will be ad reading. And it is what it is. I'm sure I'll get called a shill, but the real ones understand. So that's what it is. It's late. It's almost 9:30 over here. Thanks for tuning in. Really appreciate it. It makes a world of difference. Check out Bayer on the website I just showed you. Download the spreadsheets from my old website if you want. Subscribe to my channel if this was fun and valuable at all. If you think I'm authentic, if you think I'm a real dude, subscribe. If you think I work for the CIA, subscribe so you can keep tabs on me. And with that, the most important thing for you to do is to drink some water, eat some healthy food, get some good sleep tonight, And tomorrow, tell someone that you love them, because it matters a lot. We only have each other. Life is short and fleeting. The world is full of hate. We're more lonely than we've ever been. We're more divided than we've ever been. And you never know what reaching out to someone and just saying, how are you doing? Or thanks. Or, whatever it is. You never know what that is going to do for someone else that might be suffering silently, that might feel all alone. They might feel like they have no one in the world. And I think most of us have been there at some point in our lives. And so there's nothing better than being in a position in your life today to be able to reach out and pull someone back up out of that point in their life. So have a good night. That's it. And I'm going to take Gigi outside so she can go poop. Bye, guys.